thank you for that work. In the update which we sent out to you, you have 3 pages. The first one were some news from end December, and on that first page, on the left upper corner, you see what is the purpose for that endowment fund and the 5 main areas of the mandate, what we can support with the present endowment fund that we are creating. And these 5 purposes are exactly the same purposes that the Central Conference Theological Education Fund, sponsored by General Conference, supports. And when we have monies that we can pay out from the endowment fund, it goes through the disbursement of the Central Conference Theological Fund. So we really work in alignment together. And you also see on that page that we would like to create now something additionally to it, something which is not possible within the Central Conference Theological Education Fund created by General Conference and sponsored by General Conference. And that is the special fund for professors in Methodism, and Bishop Bard will say a word about it in a moment. Bishop Bard is also the bishop who coordinates the contact to the resident bishops here in the US when it comes to fundraising, and he will say also a bit more about it. And tomorrow, when the leadership discernment team will bring its nominations, you will see the nomination of Bishop Bard to our board, and he will replace Bishop Palmer, who from the beginning has been part of our board of the endowment fund. And Bishop Palmer, thank you, Bishop Palmer, for your great support in the endowment fund board. Thank you so much. I myself will continue to chair the board, even when I take now retirement, and I promise to the members of the board that going on retirement will give me more time to do something actively for fundraising. The second page is some update about finances, where we are on that road to create a 25 million endowment. And then the third page is an explanation of our vision and aim for such a new special fund for professors in Methodism. This is something which is not possible to sponsor through the Central Conference Theological Education Fund. But we see more and more how needed that is in central conferences because of the need to get also financial support for salaries. And salaries cannot be supported by the Central Conference Theological Education Fund. That was very intentional in the beginning, because the Central Conference Theological Education Fund, sponsored by General Conference, has to look every 4 years how much money General Conference gives. So we are not sure how sustainable it is. And therefore we did not want to start giving salary support for professors. But having an endowment fund is different. And when we can create that special fund endowed for professors in Methodism, we can give also salary support that is sustainable. So please, Bishop Bard, tell us about that project. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Streiff. Let me say a word about my role as the bishop who will be working with the bishops in the United States to see how we can raise funds toward the goal of this endowment fund. Yes, that is my role, but that doesn't mean that every time I'm calling you, it will be about money in your conference. So please do answer my calls. It may be just to say hello, so or ask about an appointment. But I will be doing that. Many of you who have been on the council for some time made a pledge to the endowment fund. Many of you have fulfilled that pledge. Thank you for doing that. If your pledge is not yet fulfilled in completion, I would like to encourage you to do that. And if to date you've not yet had an opportunity to make a pledge to this endowment fund, I would encourage your thoughtful and prayerful consideration. The other thing that I would ask is we would like to be able to connect with people in annual conferences for whom theological education, global theological education, is a passion, and you may have a contact person in your conference who can help us do that. I don't want to be calling you all the time to say, do you have anybody? If you have a contact person in your conference, I would appreciate your sending that person's name and contact information to me. So thank you for that. I will be doing some follow-up on that in the future. The additional fund for professors of Methodism attached to the endowment fund for theological education in the Central Conferences. We are talking in this Council of Bishops meeting about reclaim, revive, and renew. Reclaiming our identity as United Methodists, reviving the spirit of United Methodism, renewing our hearts and our minds. If we are to do that, solid theological education in Methodism is vitally important. And to that end, I'd like to propose the following resolution. I believe we have it for the screen. I'll begin reading it and we'll get it up. Yeah, sorry, we don't mean this to be an afternoon eye test. It really is. Whereas the United Methodist Church has a long-standing commitment to the theological education of its clergy, leaders, an education that unites knowledge and vital piety. And whereas the Council of Bishops of the United Methodist Church affirms this commitment, and in recognition of the particular needs of the Church in the Central Conferences in Africa, Europe, and Asia, previously endorsed the proposal for the establishment of an endowment fund for theological education in the Central Conferences, the goal of which was a permanent endowment fund of $25 million. You know, if we'd have done this in 1916, the amount might have been less, but that's what it is. And whereas the Board of the Endowment Fund believes that an adequate theological education in the Wesleyan tradition must include a robust education in Methodism, and notes that the original endowment fund proposal does not include funding for salaries, it recommends to the Council of Bishops an additional $10 million special fund for professors in Methodism be added to the endowment fund campaign. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of Bishops endorses the addition of the special fund for professors in Methodism as a part of the overall campaign of the endowment fund for theological education in the Central Conferences, the goal of such a special fund being a permanent endowment of $10 million. That motion is before you.
All right, it's properly before us. Conversation? Are you ready to vote? If you would support this resolution, would you say yes? Yes. Opposed, no? And it is approved.
Thank you very much for your support for this work.
Absolutely.
I believe that completes our report. Thank you very much.
Let's thank Bishops Bard and Strife. We turn now to Bishops Bill McAlilly and Lynette Plambeck to give us an update from the Council of Bishops Learning Forum. Good morning, good afternoon, you two.
Good afternoon. Everybody loves having 2 o'clock to learn something, right? Our learning forum is going to take the format of a couple of different sections. The first one Lynette will lead us in, and then the second one, we'll watch a video on the future of the church, and then we'll end with a couple of suggestions for our future learning. Since our last learning retreat, I've been pondering in the way of learning and leadership development for the council, what is needed for the church. And I've polled you, some of you have participated in an online poll, doodle poll, asking some questions. I've quizzed some of you personally. Nobody has a good answer. Many of us know what we do not want, but few can articulate in this season what we need. So in the midst of our not knowing, on August 25th of 2022, on my way to a Council of Bishops meeting in my car, I was in a near-fatal automobile accident. In the midst of our not knowing, when I got to the emergency room and came to my senses, Lynn was there, and I said, call Tom Bickerton and tell him that I'll not be able to make my report at the council meeting that day. Over the last 7.5 months, I've had 5 medical procedures which have brought me to my current state of health. You may have noticed I still walk with a limp. I suspect many of you do as well. You just are not, your limps are not as visible as mine. I've been reacquainted with trauma. 4 weeks ago, 25 people gathered in the home of Britt and Patrice Smith after their church voted to disaffiliate. 25 people left out of a church of 500 who wanted to remain United Methodist. This church is the church of my youth, Lynn's home church. It is the place that formed me theologically, socially, and spiritually. And we have been traumatized by that vote. That night that they gathered, Lynn was there, and there was Jean. Jean is 80. Her 2 children were in my youth group when I was the associate pastor there. Jean wept. She wept tears because the place that she had called home was no longer hers. She wept and wondered out loud at her death, where would her service of death and resurrection be? Across the church, over and over, this story is being repeated. It's a story of trauma. You know this story well, particularly those of us who are in the South Central and Southeastern jurisdictions know this extraordinarily well. It's a story of trauma. In the context of the Tennessee Western Kentucky Conference last July, Altura Eason Williams, an elder and district superintendent of the Metro Memphis District, was murdered in her driveway as she talked on the phone with one of her clergy colleagues. Altura was an Episcopal nominee from the Tennessee Western Kentucky Conference. Yesterday in Atlanta, another mass shooting. If gun violence hasn't visited your Episcopal area yet, just be patient, it will. Since 1960, the eastern region of the Congo has experienced repetitive wars. If we were to take time around each table, every one of us could tell some story of trauma in our Episcopal area, amen? The world and the church are experiencing trauma. In the midst of this chaos, I continue to ask, what does it mean to be the chief missionary of the church, where you're wrestling now with the role of the bishop and how it is evolving in this changing context? What does that mean? To help us wrestle with these questions, I turn now to Bishop Plambeck. Following her presentation, we will also consider the future of the church. Bishop Plambeck.
You are about to see on the screen a PowerPoint, and you're about to discover very quickly that that is not my spiritual gift. But one of the things that has marked my ministry over the last 27 years is ministry alongside of those who have experienced deep trauma, either individual trauma or collective trauma. And it is that ministry, I think, that God has particularly called me to. I also just, as a point of because I'm at the podium, I don't know how many of you have been able to have this experience, but I just want to name the bishops present with us that have been my bishops over these last 27 years. Many of them and their spouses became very acquainted to my ministry alongside of those who had gone through traumatic experience. Bishop Charles Wesley Jordan licensed me, and he's about to celebrate his 90th birthday. Bishop Ann Shear took pity on me when I was a student at St. Paul and said, come serve in my conference while you're in school. And then once I returned to Iowa, Bishops Palmer, Trimble, Haller, and then interim Bishop Keys